My Love of Life Energy is a podcast created by Anna Scott. Anna knows that every human being sees life uniquely. In this podcast, she will talk to people and learn from them. These conversations are to shine the brilliance of each human being she speaks to. Join her. After each exploration, you will expand on your insights and see truth and beauty.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to my podcast, My Love of Life Energy. And this is the last of the special series on the Muse book. And today I am going to be interviewed by Maria, like you would. And Maria was the publisher of the book. And she is the new author of A Caged Mind, her own book. So she's a prolific writer and a great speaker. So with that honor, I'm going to turn it over to her to interview me. So how's that for the tables turn?
That's really brilliant. I know I am absolutely delighted that you chose to be interviewed as part of this series, because for a little while there, I didn't think you were going to do it. And you've done such amazing interviews with all of the other authors, and so it's absolutely right that you have your chance to talk about your experience, your journey, and how the Muses have changed you, and how being part of this published book has changed you. And there's actually one of the pieces in the book that I'd like to ask you about, just to give you the heads up on that, because I didn't forewarn you about that.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so where would you like to start? I mean, you're now a published author. Tell us about, that writing journey for you.
I don't think I've really held that I'm a published author yet. Like, I don't think that one has landed yet. I mean, I know it's been, but I don't hold myself that way. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, even though it's the truth. I can still consider myself such a new writer, a beginner writer, learning the craft. Yeah. And being shocked by it and humbled by it, So
when did it start for you, the writing then?
I started writing with Jules, Sandra Koenig, who was in the writing class in Three Principles, which is part of Three Principles is by Sydney Banks, part of this community. I saw her take the writing class and I watched her change as a human being. Mm-hmm. And there was something about her voice. I saw her voice become stronger and her authentic voice come out. And I wanted that. And so I started about 2.5 years ago and just haven't looked back. And I'm one of these people, if I commit to something, I take it on wholeheartedly. So I'm the one who will actually sit down and write every day for 5 or 6 days a week. Like I'll be that person. And it won't be, I just will do the practices. And yeah, so it started with that. And I just have continued with it. I've fallen in love with it.
Yeah. What's not to fall in love with, eh? So you did at least the 4 levels. So you got to the level of the Muses. Mm-hmm. So what happened when you did the Muses for you?
It was different, but it wasn't different. I think the Muses, what was shocking is things came out of me that I had no idea. Mm-hmm. It was like somebody was picking up the pen and writing through me. And I just was watching, watching ink form lines, and then oh, wow, it's going there. It's like watching something happen. I think that's what it was. It was shocking to me a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And it took me, the first one, Jules, Jules Swales, who's the writing teacher, I like to say in my vulgar mouth, she handed my ass to me. She's like, "This, you can do better than this." And with the Muses, I really had to feel the energy, which turns out I'm an expert at feeling the energy, but I have to surrender to it.
Mm-hmm.
And like my ego has to be the receiver of it. It has to be the pen rather than the leader of it. I don't know if that makes sense. That's humbling.
Mm.
Rather than
So,
talking about the energy, I have to feel it and let it move me.
yeah. So were any of the Muses particularly easy for you, and then were any of them particularly hard?
I think the first one, it's funny. It is the first one, the horror, because I couldn't be into my true feminine nature. Like it still wasn't allowed. Like that one, I'd have to go back and write that one now because of my, like how I've grown in the since I've written this and how I've grown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't have the capacity to be with the power of that energy. Of, like that's to me the divine feminine, the wildness and like what the power of that is and the attraction and feel it. I couldn't touch it. I could observe it and talk about it, but I couldn't feel it at that point.
Mm. So you did Whore first then, did you?
Yeah.
Wow. Because that was the one that she was really pushed back in when I was doing Gore. So wow, good on you for doing that one first.
Well, no, I tried it. And she actually showed me, now that I see it was a gift, because she was the one that showed me how I needed to really be in this energy. Oh, wow. She showed me what I wasn't doing in my life.
Mm.
And I hadn't realized that, like, I was making it wrong how I was. And actually, she was the leader into how to do Muses by showing me what not to do.
Nice. So that just speaks to, and I know that you've talked about this with some of the other Muse authors, is how you've, through the writing, and particularly through the Muse writing, you've found, I mean, when I talked about it in mine, I talked about finding parts of myself, opening doors up within myself. How do you see that? It sounded similar.
Yeah, it's like there's, I was talking to my boyfriend this morning, and he was saying that, basically we're all white light, but that as we come into the human form, we're all fractals of colors. And these Muses are fractals of colors inside of us that get expressed through a certain energy wave, if that makes sense. Like there's a certain feeling to it. But I have to go in and feel that part of me that's universal, or in the way it gets expressed uniquely through me. Yeah.
So do you feel that you learned a lot about yourself then through the writing and through the Muses?
Oh, in fact, it's really interesting. I think they're still working on me. I was thinking about my mother Muse could have looked like a huntress, but she actually, I felt her this morning. I don't know, she came back to me today, and I felt her in a different way, and her power of what her capacity is to do. And she was really, it was like protecting the earth. Like all of a sudden I got, she was protecting the earth. That mother was, yeah. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah. So I think they're still, I'm curious. I'd like to go back and do it again. Like, I think I'm so curious, like what would happen if I rewrote the Muses from another level?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but I did the level twice.
Yeah.
It was a very different experience the second time to the first time. I'm not saying it would be the case for you, but that it certainly was for me.
Oh, I'd like to.
So I'd really like to talk to you about your experience of publishing your work in the book. I mean, what was your first reaction when the invitation came out?
Honestly, that it was a joke. Like I didn't. I didn't let it land on me. Like I still haven't, actually, Maria.
Mm-hmm.
I just see how my thinking about myself. I'm studying this thing called the gene keys. And the gene keys, my highest gift, my greatest suffering is my inadequacy. So when I look at something, I always look at it from a lens of inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I habitually do. So I thought, well, if I wasn't that good, blah, 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 it's not really me. And then I remember the day being so touched by it when we were on screen and the book was launching. And honestly, it was probably, as I'm remembering, it's probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had. Like I wasn't going to do it. And I could feel and I moved past it and I got through it and got it published. And you helped, like, I remember you helping me write. And when you helped me edit, I became a better writer because of your edits. I mean, it was so impactful. And then you said, I remember feeling this energy, and I went on to do the manuscript class, and I feel like my writing, I became a more serious writer because of it.
Mm.
But I always said I always told everybody else that they should be a writer, but secretly I wanted to be one.
Mm.
So I think it's really one of the proudest things I've ever have happened. And I don't think I've ever voiced that till right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. Because you were super. I loved seeing that about you. Like there was a part of you. It was really clear that you really didn't know if you wanted to be part of it, but it was really clear that a part of you did want to be part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did, and obviously the other part won because did end up. Thank God.
So I want to ask you about one of your pieces. Hold on, I didn't check which muse it was. Let me just check which muse it is. I forget. I have to go to the back to find it. So I think it's Medusa, actually. The Medusa. So the truth in me, and it starts with, I don't want to write.
Yeah.
And then it finishes with, you talked about your boyfriend always seeing the truth in you and about going for the jugular. And it finishes with, he is right. When I write, I will. And part of me will love it. Part of me will relish what it is to make a clean slice. Part of me will open his mouth and place them. You're talking about his balls here. And place them oh so gently in his gaping mouth while I watch his eyes bulge out. I mean, how do you go from I don't want to write to writing that?
That's the greatest mystery. I have no idea. I remember seeing that, like, oh my God, please, like, this is what's coming out on the page. Yeah. No, I love that. I remember, I think that's the thing, is that we surrender to the writing. I trust what comes through me. I don't try to edit what comes through me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I can feel the self-consciousness about it right now, kind of the embarrassment because of the cultural thinking. But there was a truth to me to knowing that I am that. I'm all of it. And there's a power in knowing who we all are, that we're all of this. You know, what you said about the hidden parts, it's like we're so many things in this human body. And if we don't filter it, we can be delighted by what I can be delighted by what comes through it. And surprised and shocked.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it sounds like the Muses and the method writing has really impacted. It certainly impacted your writing. What about your life?
I wrote some, how do I say it? Yesterday I had this experience where Jules has you listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote something that was so different for me. And it wasn't well received in class. Like number of comments, you know how people can guffaw, none of that. But there was a power in knowing that I had stretched myself
Mm-hmm.
and done something different.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there was a unity in it and I could see it. And just having the experience of trying something different and not being received was so powerful because I was out of my comfort zone. And the other thing that it's done is it's shown me language, the power of language. I coach, and when I hear people say you, I know that they're not able to be with the energy of themselves.
Mm. I'm going to say a bit more about that then.
The difference between you versus I is a different universe because there's a separateness to the you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's allowed me to sit with myself and be with everything that comes up and be the eye in the storm of it and be the observer of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell different stories about it and empower it and also be kind of in a mystery. Like I wrote something about when I was a little girl, like I was wondering when I became so afraid. And then I remembered I hadn't thought about this when I was a little girl. Must have been 4 or 5. I went off one of those high dives, like, you know, those 3-tiered, like the super high dives where you have to go up and up and up.
Yeah.
And I did it and I totally forgot about that part of me. And I remember I shamed my brother and but I was exploring, when did I become so afraid? And all of a sudden other memories came in that I could write and hold differently. Like they weren't my story anymore. I was telling a new story. I'm the author of my life.
Yeah.
Not my circumstances. I'm the author. And beginning to see that the writing is letting me clearly see is I am the author of my life. On the page and off the page. That there's no difference.
Do you find that through the writing you've got completely different memories show up and see a completely different, I think that's what you were alluding to, like see maybe your childhood or past life or something in a completely different light?
Yeah, I think that yes, I think that you know, it's like we looked at it from one angle of life, and all of a sudden we're taking a bigger perspective back. Like I've stepped back or I've gone higher up the mountain and I can see another perspective of the same scene. And I see more of what was really happening. If I'm interested in it. If I'm willing to see it. And then it becomes creative. Like you start to tell stuff that's part true and part not. And then it becomes to realize, like, how fun can I make this?
Yeah.
You know?
So if an opportunity was to come up again to, to have more work published, would you go for it? Would you do it again?
Yeah. Well, I took your manuscript class and you guys kicked my ass.
In a nice way, I hope.
Yeah, I know it's in there, actually. The one that I think it's going to be a part of another book.
Mm-hmm.
And I, it's really funny. I don't know. I keep on wanting to turn this conversation to you because I have 10,000 questions for you. There's nothing more satisfying than saying you did it. Like, I did this, I published this. And I can't imagine, because I know your book's just coming out. It's one thing to be like, so this is my inadequate, and I'm always putting down. Yes, I got that, but God, what would it be like how would I feel if I had my own book and put that much energy and time into it,
mm-hmm.
and cross the finish line on it?
Mm-hmm.
And whether anybody bought it or nothing like that, it's just, what would it be like if I finished it and did that? Oh God, I'm getting choked up. I mean, what was it like for you?
It's very special. It's a very special experience especially when you knock out all of that inadequacy feelings. That there's something very, lovely about holding your book in your hand.
Oh,
and you had that experience with the Muse book to a certain degree, but when it's all yours, and it is a bit scary, I have to say, but I think you hit the nail on the head. You put it out there, and whether it sells or not, like, once it's out in the world, it's not yours anymore anyway. Right. And it'll do what it will, and I'll do my best to help it along, to try and market it and whatever. But then once it's out there, it's out there. And I can look at it. I was reading mine just a couple of nights ago in readiness for the launch, and I was looking at it with the lens in of, oh my God, this could be so much better. and knowing that it's already so much better than it was when it was first drafted.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would like the feeling.
Well, based on what just happened, but noticing what happened to me, getting in touch with how that felt, not realizing how much it had impacted me.
So just say a bit about that then, because I think people who haven't published anything at all, who've been too scared to put their work out in the world, I think they're going to be really interested in that.
The image that's coming to my mind is like I've been holding this butterfly inside of me, or holding it in my hand, but I let it free in the sky. There was a part of me that got to be free. That wasn't, with your book, A Caged Mind, it's that there's been a dream or something stirring in me my whole life. And it got to fly. It got to be put out to the world, to be realized. And there's something beautiful about the freedom of it, the feeling of the freedom of that desire, of that dream or that wish, and seeing it go off into life. That's actually a great image.
It is. The one thing that I do want to say as well, it's like when we started, I said how pleased I am that you agreed to do this podcast and have the tables turned on you, because I think one of the things that really happens in having this interview because we didn't, like when we did we did mixed interviews, so we only did groups of interviews. When you have this interview, it somehow acknowledges and affirms the fact that you are a published author in your own right. Mm. That's partly what this conversation is, how I see it.
Mm. Oh wow. And oh wow. Say more about that. That is so beautiful. I could feel it, Maria.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you allowing yourself to be a published author. You know, you were saying earlier, like it's like you were holding on to the butterfly, trying to stop it from flying, but it's already launched.
Yeah.
And now it's about realizing that you have already done it. You are already a published author.
Oh wow. Wow. What you just gave me, or what I just saw, was like the additional pressure, like that's already done. You know, like that dream, and now it's like, well, what else? I mean, it becomes you know, like in birth, or that stone, like you have to come through the canal and all that pressure and all that. That's been done. That's what feels free now.
Mm.
It's been birthed. I am a published author. Now I can publish again. Mm-hmm. And that's very different than getting through that first birth.
Mm.
Wow. That's actually a great, yeah. Now it makes it more fun. Wow.
Everything gets easier from here. Doing it again gets easier once you've done it once.
God, that makes me excited. Actually, I think this is the, we did it perfectly timing for the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know that I would have been ready to see this. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I would have been, who knows, but perfect timing, I always trust that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Just reminded me of, you know, I was a published author for I don't know how many years before I finally decided that I was a writer. Never called myself a writer. I was a published author, but I never called myself a writer.
Wow.
We have such funny things going up in our heads.
I love that. I don't know that, you know, that's, you talked about the manuscript class, owning that you're a writer. Wow. And I must be a writer if I sit down and write every day, or at least 5 or 6 days a week. I figure even if I do it 30 minutes, that's enough.
Yeah.
Just to keep it going. That's simple. The one thing that I want to say about the writing is what I'm beginning to see. It's like a row of knitting that I can't see where it's going, and that somehow that row that I started down here ends up at the top. Like 6 days later, something that I wrote, that piece comes in. You know, I couldn't figure out where it was going, what it was doing. I left it and then started writing something else, and all of a sudden parts of it. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
I love that.
Sometimes you have to write something before the next bit can come. It's like you have to get some stuff out of the way before you can write some things. And then some things are just not, it just seems like, yeah, you just have to kind of get yourself ready to be able to be there, which I think was why how the method writing classes work, because they build, every level builds on the level before. You can see it And when you look back, you can see how it's all of it was bringing us to this place where we are now, and will continue keep taking us to different places. And we wouldn't be able to go to those places if we hadn't have done all of those levels first.
Yeah, that's where I'm saying I think that's why today was perfect, because I've done all the levels and ready. Cool.
So that's the time.
Oh, Maria.
Such a pleasure.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done this writing. I wouldn't have been a published author. So I'm very, wow. I'm very grateful for your gifts and what you're doing in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. All right. Well, with that, then I get to control. And that's it, folks. Thank you so much. And this now completes the end of the series of the story of the Muses. So thank you.